Welcome to CEA 101, a study abroad overview. We're excited to have you here with us today. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. We have a lot of topics to cover. We'll try to leave to review and questions for the end. Please submit your questions using the chat function. Also, please mute your mics to allow the best experience for everyone. Lastly, we will be sending out the recording of the session and the submitted questions to everyone for reference. We're going to introduce ourselves. I am Alex Hazelton. I'm a senior site specialist here, and I will be moderating today.
I am the Associate Director of Student Advising.
Elizabeth Kate. I am your Director of Health, Safety, and Student Affairs at CEA. I go by Liz.
Hello, I am Alex Henderson. I'm your Associate Academic Coordinator.
Wondering if we have sound. If anyone cannot hear it, can you please chat in?
Overview of today's topics that we will be covering. We're going to start with an intro to CEA resources, then go into an academic overview, planning for departure, country requirements, cell phones, quick tips, and life on location. Introduction to CEA. Who is CEA? CEA stands for Cultural Experiences Abroad, but we go by CEA Study Abroad. CEA partners with both U.S. and international universities to develop our study abroad programs and academics with the goal of helping as many students as we can have the study abroad experience. So now it's Alex Henderson to review our academic structure.
Again, my name is Alex Henderson, and I'm the Associate Academic Coordinator here at CEA. I just wanted to go over the different types of academic structures we have in our different programs. You'll see at one, we have CEA Study Center programs. That means your student will be courses at our study center with the fellow CEA students only. On the other end, we have our partner university programs where students are enrolling in a institution at their partner home location, visiting location, and they'll be taking courses with international students as well. And then in the middle, we have our hybrid student programs. You have a little bit of both. Students taking courses at both the CEA Study Center and the partner university as well. Then we have our internship programs. We call those out just a little bit separately because in addition to taking courses, our students are also working in their internship placement. And it's important to talk to your student and identify the structure of their program and make sure you understand institution, the distance it's going to be to where they're taking their classes, and kind of help them frame their experience. If you don't know what structure your student is participating in, connect with them and maybe have a little with them about that. About academic expectations, CEA has high academic standards, and they are enforced throughout your student's program, regardless of whether your student is attending a study center or partner institution. There will be an attendance policy that your student will be held accountable to throughout their program. Example, excessive absences will affect your student's grade. Note that this attendance policy may differ greatly from your student's home institution's policy. It is at length during your student's orientation, and there are academic staff available for support during your student's semester. What I'd like to mention is that traveling will count as an absence for your student. So if you are planning on visiting your student during their program, please review their calendar to make sure that your plans coincide with your student's courses. Again, traveling is not an excuse for absence, even if there were conditions outside of your student's control. Talking about the classroom, just as they will have to adapt to a culture of their new city, they will also have to adapt to the culture of an international classroom. While culture may be more strict than what students are used to, they will need to abide by these new rules. For example, phones are absolutely not allowed in the classroom, and they may need to surrender their phone upon request of the professor. Most teachers will allow computers into the classroom, but that needs to be confirmed on the first day of class. What is allowed in class classrooms, but students should not bring in outside food or drink. Punctuality is also key in the CEA classroom. Students are expected to arrive on time and stay for the entire duration of class. Oftentimes, internationally, professors will do things like lock the door at the beginning of the class, and the student might be considered absent for the entire class period, even if they show up just a few minutes late. While there is no formal dress code, wearing pajamas or yoga pants or other such casual clothes are not considered appropriate for the CEA classroom. Part of it is not only learning the topics of their course, but also professional interactions. Professors internationally are generally granted much more respect than those in the United States, so students should always address their professors and CEA staff, both in verbal and written communication, with professionalism, courtesy, and kindness. Last, talk about special accommodation. If your student receives any special accommodations at their home institution, such as a quiet testing environment, maybe a taker or extra time on examinations, please have your student contact their site specialist so that we can begin the process to ensure that those accommodations can be given to your student while they are abroad as well. We want to ensure the success of every single student while they are abroad.
As Associate Director of Student Advising, I will give you an overview of the pre-departure experience that your student is currently going through. Your student their CEA experience by working with a CEA admissions counselor to determine which program would be the best fit for their academic and personal goals. Academic advisors, study abroad office, and you to confirm that the choice they made was correct. When accepted into the program, they then started working with their site specialist. The site specialist is your student's main point of contact from the time they're accepted to basically until they get on the plane for their program. Your specialist reaches out to your students proactively through several different mediums, messaging, phone calls, emails, and Facebook, regularly to ensure that they are receiving both logistical and cultural preparation for the study abroad program. Each specialist is an expert in the programs that they advise and are yours and your students' best resource during this time. Also, been assigned a personal student accounts advisor, a great resource for the tuition payment. They can have a customized payment program or work with your student school's financial aid office. If you haven't talked about a financial strategy with your student, we strongly encourage you to do so that we can help support you through that. Right, another resource for you, the My CEA account, which you can see on the screen. This is simply your student's portal and is an overview of the logistical preparation that your student needs to complete before they leave for the program. It has a lot of information to help prepare them culturally and logistically for their program. Choices, make payments, and about all of the resources that are available to them. If you haven't seen this, you can ask your student for login information. I'll prepare you and your students for an excellent experience. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Now, Liz Cather will be talking to you about some pre-departure conversations.
Your Director of Health, Safety, and Student Affairs. You may be familiar with my introduction on our family group, and you can also look for my lessons from Liz. Those will be posted in the Facebook group and the blog, so I look forward to speaking with you there. I'm your resource for questions and for your student study abroad experience outside of the classroom. Students choose their study location for many reasons. Perhaps a sibling or a parent studied there, they visited on a family or a school trip and wanted to go back, friends recommending that location or particular city and they have friends going, or they want to be the first to study and travel abroad. As you are reflecting on their study abroad opportunity, it's valuable to have conversations about what they expect from this experience and what they expect from them for studying abroad. Is to complement their major or their minor at their home institution, is to perfect an existing language skill or maybe acquire conversational skills in a new language, is to absorb the local culture, learning about where family members may have come from and their heritage, or travel as much as possible and experience multiple cultures. And what your expectations for them are. to earn important credits for their degree, to grow their independence, to become more resilient, to have a more global perspective, experience culture. How about and learn new career skills or international work experience if they're in an internship program? This kind of discussion will help you understand your students' priorities and also share your hopes for them, help with planning for that time abroad. Very important because this time abroad is a very short time in the summer and it's a very concentrated time.
One to talk about is budgeting. Preparing for a budget for study abroad is a little more intensive than what you might be used to with books and organizational dues in the typical college budget. Every year, CEA provides a sample budget based on student spending habits over the last 3 years in that location. It shows high and low-end costs for potential upcoming expenditures. This is found on the CEA website and your student's MyCEA account. Again, the family resources available to you. The family guide that can be found on seen on the screen. This is available in your student's MyCEA account, blog, as well as our website. We remind you of the family Facebook group that has been created for you on a country-specific level. It's a wonderful way to connect with other individuals and a great resource for you. We want to remind you of the CEA staff members here in the Phoenix office who are here to help and support you with anything you need during the pre-departure process.
Those are resources, Emily. Thank you. Know that there will be challenges in preparing for your student study abroad experience. New experiences always bring forth questions and concerns. However, working through those difficulties will not help your student become a stronger person and more resilient. They'll be better able to make the challenges and steps they might experience on site or later in life. Your feelings of concern are going to be magnified by that distance and the anxiety as your student approaches their study abroad experience and all new unknowns. But these things are going to be very exciting for your students. You have to disconnect in speaking with them at times. Your CEA family is here to support you. And if you remember from the first day they started school that you've been able to prepare your students to learn things from you to succeed in this new environment. If you succeeded in college, they are going to do fine studying abroad. I want you to join those family groups to help balance your feelings with the feelings of family members going through the same experience and often have those same concerns.
Travel to and around your student's program location. Summer programs, your student will not need a student visa to complete their program. However, to verify if this is a requirement, please connect your student and their site specialist. Regardless if your student needs a visa or not, they absolutely will need a valid passport. Please student to ensure that their passport is good for at least 90 days after their program ends and be in good condition, so no rips and tears, and it needs to be signed. Is planning on traveling to any additional countries outside of their host country or traveling outside of the program dates, their visa requirements may change. So it's important to understand these entry requirements and what will be needed for any additional travel. Last, is not a U.S. or Canadian citizen, they will need to verify with their passports in country of additional requirements necessary to study in country. Some communication logistics, specifically cell phones. That all students obtain a working phone with international or local service and provide a number to the on-site staff within 5 days of the program starting. This will ensure that our staff can reach your student in event of an emergency. Your specialist can help. We're going to give the information here, and student site staff will also help if they choose to obtain a phone once they arrive. Please to give their phone numbers to the on-site staff. A great way to do that is during orientation, which takes place the first few days of the program. It's all remember that while Wi-Fi is available internationally, students should not rely on Wi-Fi alone to communicate with students. review several options that you and your student have for obtaining a cell phone while they are abroad. One is to use their current U.S. cell phone with a foreign SIM card. Cell phone models can accept foreign SIM cards. You can do this with their U.S. provider. If capable of using a foreign SIM card, require that their phone is unlocked. This must be completed before your student's travel begins. And then purchase an inexpensive SIM card when you arrive on site. With cards, the way it works is they'll purchase credit and continue to purchase additional credit as they use the one that they've already purchased. This is a way to keep track of a budget and usually a less expensive way to communicate. It is note that a lot of foreign SIM cards do not support internet or apps like U.S. smartphones do. They are really primarily for local calls and text messaging. So that's one. Two is to obtain a pay-as-you-go phone upon arriving in their study abroad location. These are widely used internationally, and they can be purchased very easily and inexpensively abroad. Similar to option one, they'll purchase credit and continue to add credit as they run out. Many choose this option, and then they'll also bring their U.S. phone with them, keep it in airplane mode, and use it to access internet and Wi-Fi areas. Option is to use their regular U.S. phone with an international plan. Now, the option, however, it can be expensive, so we strongly recommend doing your research with your U.S. provider and other U.S. providers to see what plans are available. Last, communication with you. There are some really great apps that you can see on the screen. WhatsApp, Viber, FaceTime, or Skype are ideal for international communication.
Emily, great options, and I'm glad that you discussed cell phone at length. It is a primary way that we do contact your students in a way in which you've probably been very used to speaking to your students. Very important that we have that cell phone number within the first 5 days of the program start, and that it is a working cell phone. Our need to be able to confirm your students' travel plans, and in some cases, if there's an incident abroad, where if they are safe, and we relay that information not only back to you as their parents and family members and emergency contacts, but also to their home university. For that reason, we need the students to have a work cell phone that is not dependent on Wi-Fi, with a phone plan that will enable us to reach them even if they are not within their host country. On to packing tips. And different than traveling domestically, traveling internationally, we really want to give some thoughtful preparation to packing. We suggest one carry-on, a large suitcase which will be checked, and one backpack. This combination allows for a lot of versatility later when the student may travel independently, and is also more manageable for them when they encounter housing that does not have elevators or they're managing their own suitcases through international airports. Check for any restrictions and be sure to comply with your international weight restrictions. It can vary by country and airline. When preparing to leave, they should bring the documents with them on the plane that they need, including their arrival card, their passport, and airline ticket. Those need to be with them. We encourage them to leave a copy of their ticket and a copy of their passport at home should for some reason something happen. And what's very unnecessary to the generation, it's really important to have a change of clothes, maybe some personal toiletries in that carry-on bag should their larger luggage be or delayed for some reason. That happen on international flights. And for students to be unprepared when they arrive and don't have all the clothes and all the toiletries that they packed immediately available to them. Students expect to have their electronic screen. We jump up in those security processes around the world, particularly their laptops, their tablets, and their phones may be reviewed. Medications in their checked baggage. All medications, over-the-counter or prescription, need to be carried on so they can be reviewed by security and understood for prescription is in the original bottle, with a note from the doctor explaining what is needed and how it's taken.
What to pack, we encourage you and your students to research the climate of their city. With that being said, the best advice that we have is layers. Find that your student may be attending religious institutions that have dress codes, no layers, for example. All tennis shoes and flip-flops are not very common in other countries. We do recommend very comfortable walking shoes, as they will be walking a lot in their travels, and their feet will thank them later. Allow your students to leave anything home that is irreplaceable, something to be lost. And I want to reiterate what Liz said about packing medicine. It is not possible to ship medication internationally. So it is very important for your student to bring with them in their carry-on the amount of medication that they will need for the entire program.
And then through your enrollment team, we can provide a substantiation of the length of the program to an insurance company that does not want to give a student a prescription for the length of time they need it. As we all know, prescriptions are refilled on a 30 or 60 cycle. Sometimes it shouldn't be too much of a problem, but if you have any questions about that, feel free to call. Thanks, Liz.
A little bit about what the arrival process will look like. When your students arrive on site, they'll need to, well, first of all, they'll need to purchase their flight. They need to arrive on their program start date, down on their MyCEA account. Please the date that their program classes will start, just the date they need to arrive in the city. CEA will greet all students who arrive on the program start date at the airport listed on the screen, and they will provide transportation to those living in CEA housing. If you've been misplaced by the airline, our staff will help them fill out a lost luggage claim before they leave the airport. Please can't control how quickly things are delivered, but we will do everything we can to help your students. If all they need to do is look at the arrival card that can be printed out from their MyCEA account, they'll on-site staff, and they'll work with the on-site staff to facilitate a solution for when they do arrive in the country. Then, your student's on-site staff is now their best resource and new point of contact. It was first instinct to reach out to their site specialist or to you if something goes wrong, but strongly encourage them to reach out to their on-site staff as they're in the same city, time zone, and are very, very, very experienced.
And Emily, that it's so important that a plan is in place so when your student will arrive, how they will contact you. Know that you are anxiously awaiting for them to land at their destination, and sometimes due to jet lag or meeting at the airport, they can get very busy and delay that call up to a few days. Please reach a student and decide when they will confirm that they've arrived with you, and talk about the time difference and their jet immediately. You make a few calls in the middle of the night as you settle into a regular calling schedule, and we'll help you adjust as you get used to speaking with your student every day. You need to prepare for some gaps in communication, maybe less frequent communication. That you will worry less about them when you have regular touch points is very important. The fact that they adapt to their new lives of studying abroad, you may receive some emotional phone calls. Within that first week, this new experience may be very uncomfortable. A regular call schedule will create balance for them and for you, so that they're shared when something is going well as not going well.
Expectations that you and your students should be prepared for when they're with their upcoming program. Commuting is very, very common in many of our locations. Depending on the city, students traveling between 10 and 40 minutes to and from their housing and their school. This is part of the experience of living in a new country. If there is public transportation in your student's city, it's very manageable, and our on-site staff ensures that students are confident in using this new means of transportation.
These are metropolitan areas, even large university towns, where your student will bring their way around and living. The housing may be much other than anticipated, considering that some of these cities are older than the United States in total, 100 years old in some of those Paris apartments and some of those buildings in Prague. So the ceilings and the windows may be much taller and much more elegant. Other features, such as closets, are going to be smaller or maybe non-existent. Wardrobes are very common. Smaller are more common. Take that into consideration as your student is packing and planning their wardrobe. Overpack. The internet may not be as fast or as consistent. If all the students housed together are downloading or streaming content at the same time. Their mobilities may be in a different location in the building or on a balcony, and electric clothes dryers will not be commonly found. Students expect to hang their clothes to dry either on clothes racks or on clotheslines. That is much bigger difference than here in the United States, where we have the convenience of clothes dryers in every household. Can be found, and laundry services can be located, but these do tend to be more expensive.
Talking about food, as we know, is a big part of every new culture. As they adapt to this new culture, they will also be adapting to styles and new cultural expectations around food. Shipping care packages. Confirm shipping instructions to your student's location. Like earlier, it is important to know that you cannot mail medicine. And it's important to note that packages can sometimes easily get stuck in customs if the receiving country has questions about the contents. Please feel free to reach out to your student site specialist.
A couple takeaways from today's session. Use the resources available to help set proper expectations. Develop an arrival communication plan. Discuss and agree to a budget. Review your student's location and academic program. Enjoy this experience, and if possible, visit your student abroad. Trust us, it's fun. And so we look forward to having you all join us again for our CEA 102, for Students' Health and Safety Abroad. That will be on Wednesday, May 17th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And time for questions. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Be entered into the chat function if you have any questions you would like for us to review at this time.
So the question is, where do students purchase a foreign SIM? Their account, and is this something we can do prior to travel?
Good question. So purchasing an international SIM card is the most effective and cost-effective way to do that is to purchase it on-site. On-site staff have great relationships with local vendors and really help facilitate that process. It can be done within the first, within the first couple days that they do arrive. If you'd like for your student to have a phone before you leave, the best option is really to look into the international plans. They're becoming more common, so that's good, but they can be a little expensive. So we do encourage you to do your research and look at a lot of different providers to see out there.
So include in the housing, do they have kitchen facilities for cooking?
That really depends on the type of housing that your student has selected. Students who have apartments do have kitchens that will be able to access and balance cooking for themselves and their roommates or flatmates. Kitchens do tend to be smaller in these apartment-style buildings, so students will likely have a more petite stovetop, maybe no oven. And if your student does enjoy cooking, you have a bit of adaptation as they transition. Residences or any of the dormitory-style housing do common kitchen areas, which are used by not only the CEA students, but maybe other international students and things. And they're great communal spaces where students can come together and cook and talk. Students who have selected a homestay option will not have kitchen privileges, and that's out of respect for the homestay family and the life that they have when the student is in the home. They do have their meals coordinated appropriately, breakfast and dinners, and if there's any dietary concerns, that'll be shared with their homestay family before their arrival. It's very important in a homestay relationship that students do communicate appreciation for those meals that are cooked and express if they have any dietary issues, and also let them know if they're not going to be home for a dinner or home for a breakfast. That's very courteous. The food is a big part of the culture, and hopefully your students will all have a chance to branch out and do cooking and learn some local recipes aside from eating out.
Absolutely. And if there is a meal plan that comes with your student's program, any specific information like that, that can be confirmed when your student's housing is released. Housing assignments will be released about 1 to 2 weeks before their program starts. They have filled out what's called a housing preferences form, where they indicated which housing they would like to live in. And so if you have questions about that, have that communication and that conversation with your student. You can also see on our website what's included in each housing style. So lots of good information that you can find out about specific information regarding your student's program.
We have a question about arriving earlier than the program start date. What are students' options for if they are arriving a little bit before the program starts?
That's a question, and this is really common in summer. Students that travel before or after the program. If they do arrive earlier than the program starts, they'll just need to enter that information into their CEA account so you can have that information. When your student is arriving early, the on-site staff or your student site specialist will reach out to them with instructions on how to meet them on the day of the program. And so vary from the country and city to city, but all you need to do is enter that information into their CEA account, and so that they can be notified.
It's also very important to remember that while your student, usually for the summer, does not need a student visa, many, particularly for American passport holders, are allowed to stay for 90 days without a visa. So you'll want to make sure that your student isn't arriving too early or isn't departing too late, so they can stay within compliance of those immigration laws.
So for weekend and non-covered meals, are there dining facilities in proximity to housing?
So culinary, student services, and university environment that your student has learned about in their home college in the U.S. is not known abroad. So the idea of a comprehensive campus with dining and student services is a little American. There may be dining locations very close where more students are frequent, and there may be small cafes attached to a university or conveniently located, but there are no cafeteria-style dorm dining options with all-you-can-eat meal plans. When we talk about meal plans being available to your students, those are the meals that might be associated with living in their homestay or a lunch option that they can buy on a regular basis at a close cafe associated with their university. Some students do pack their lunch. Some students do come up with a plan for dining locally at a particular place. Lunch can be very economically gotten in any of these countries. And what was your experience dining while you went to school?
I stayed at a homestay when I studied abroad in France, and I had breakfast and lunch included. In a particular partner institution was a cafe very near the partner institution, so that's where a lot of students attended. And then on the weekends, I would generally eat out with friends. Like I said, always notifying my homestay that I wasn't going to be there. That was also part of the fun, that you explore all of the different types of food and really get a wide range. It's nice to have something included in your program for living, but if it's not, there are so many options. And our site staff does a great job of providing resources for an expensive place for students to eat.
Students bring credit cards. What is the safest, lowest cost / fees to exchange money?
Ooh, this is a great topic. I know every family will have their own threshold for how many cards they will carry and what those limits are. We do find that debit card transactions can be more difficult abroad. It's nice to have a straight credit card. One credit card is sufficient. We want to make sure that you have the numbers for those cards should they be lost or need to be replaced. A dedicated account for health costs. We're going to talk more about that in our next 102 session on health and safety. The student is never worried about their budget and doesn't want to visit the doctor for a cold or pick up an over-the-counter medication because they don't want to take away from their budget. So nice to have a separate card dedicated just to healthcare concerns. But you want to review banks, different credit unions have different transaction fees, and that's important. We do really recommend that students use ATMs and carry cash. It's a very cash-based society abroad. Debit card transactions repeatedly, and
yeah. One that we would recommend is ordering local currency before your student departs. So go to your local bank. They can, and you say, I need euros, for example. You can order. We recommend between $100 and $200 of that local currency. So go and talk with your bank if they don't have it on hand. It's very common that they can order that for you. But that's good money for the first couple of days as your student is there. One other question we had was about partner banks. It's possible for a short amount of time that your student will be there over the summer. It's a big process that usually is more common for year-long students who will be in the country for the entire year. So in terms of avoiding ATM fees, avoidable, unfortunately, but we do recommend that students maybe withdraw a larger amount of money at time to not draw from the ATM frequently, and then keep that money in a safe place and only carry around with them what they need for day-to-day expenses. I think we have a lot of other questions, but we are at our time for today, so we will be answering all of your questions and distributing that transcript along with the recording. We will be distributing that later this week. It'll be posted in the Facebook groups, on blog, and then it'll come to an email for everyone next week. So thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate your participation. We look forward to speaking with you soon.